If I had to sum up today's entire video in a single word, it would be matrimony. Weddings, am I right? We've all had one. No, wait. We've all been to one. Probably. And there's nothing more relatable than the constant struggle of trying to feel happy for everyone while simultaneously trying not to judge everything that's going on. But today, we've been given the opportunity to offer all the judgment we want because this is a wedding edition of r/Am I the A-hole? We are going to go through a handful of posts where people ask if they are the wrong one in the scenario. Instead of collecting posts from the people getting married, these are all coming from the attendees. And let's just say weddings give rise to some interesting interpersonal dynamics. But first, welcome. My name is D'Angelo, and I am your professor of gravitational Polly Pockets, which is a very real degree that I definitely do have. Or maybe this is just me broadcasting myself talking in my room like YouTube used to be. And in today's lecture, we are going to not only judge whether or not people are the a-hole in their scenarios, but I'm also going to be grading each post for authenticity. Because if there's one thing Reddit has done, it's elevate the practice of lying for attention on the internet to an art form. And as I'm sure you can tell, I am a bit of an art connoisseur. Alright, first post. Am I the a-hole for taking bets on how long my cousin's second marriage will last at her wedding reception? I mean, yes, obviously you are. Like, do I have to finish reading this? But I also am not going to sit here and pretend like I haven't done the same thing before. My cousin just got married for the second time. Her first marriage ended in a messy divorce after like a year and a half. Oof, so she's notorious for rushing things. They've only been dating for a few months. And at the reception, I kinda jokingly said, "How long do you think this one will last?" People started throwing out guesses, and I made it into an actual game, wrote down everyone's bets, and we all tossed some money into a pot. I feel like asking the question publicly like that at her wedding is already really mean, but this is just absurd. You do realize you are in fact there to at least pretend to celebrate. Man, if I invited someone to my wedding and it just turns out they were preying on my downfall like this, one of her friends overheard what we were doing and told her about it. She freaked out, left her own reception early, and now the whole family's mad at me. They're saying it was disrespectful and that I ruined her day. We were just joking around and I didn't think it would blow up like this. I feel bad, but at the same time, she does have a history of rushing into things. Am I the a-hole? Alright, so first things first, let's go ahead and grade this for authenticity. I wouldn't fail it. I suppose this could happen, though it's very like the first 5 minutes of a rom-com, right? You're at your second wedding, someone has made this horrible joke and you rush out, and then on your way out, you run into him or her, you know, it's 2024. It's not the most grounded story I've ever heard, but I guess it could happen. So that's a C. Now, as far as whether this person is the a-hole, yes, of course you are. This is incredibly mean. And the fact that they are still saying, I was just kidding, and she does rush things. If it's one kind of person that tends to annoy me, it's somebody who, like, refuses to take anything seriously, or more importantly, refuses to understand why some people may see certain things as serious that they do not. And that sort of seems like what's going on here. Maybe they weren't trying to be a horrible person, but fail? Yes, of course, you're the a-hole. Sitting there eating her chicken, drinking her wine, and talking trash about her is objectively not a cool move. Exactly. Again, doing this at somebody's wedding is a different level of crazy. At their wedding is just ridiculous. Of course you're the a-hole. I treat other people like they are toys and games for my own amusement. Am I the a-hole? Yes. Overall, we're starting off strong. Alright, so next, a brief break from the wedding bells because I just had to include this post anyway based off the title alone. Am I the a-hole for locking my girlfriend out of the basement so I could eat in peace? Preemptive guesses are kind of difficult with this one. I have no idea. I am 39 and male. Same. My girlfriend is 41. During the time I've lived with her, I've become very used to the fact that she seems to de-stress by complaining. Complaining about her mother, former coworkers. Oof, but much of this complaining is about me and how I'm not meeting her expectations. Alright, if you watched my last Reddit video, you probably know where I'm going with this. Divorce.com. Let's go ahead and start the sign-up process immediately. You might be thinking, wait, they said they were girlfriend and boyfriend, not husband and wife. The strangest thing is I didn't ask. I I'm an equal opportunity divorce manifester for random people on Reddit. A few months back, her complaining increased significantly. I'm happy to listen to her, but not when I'm eating. She gets upset when I don't answer her fast enough, even when I'm chewing. She'll start saying, hello, 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 are you even listening? As I try to swallow the food quickly and answer her. At that point, I would just be like, no, I'm not listening. This chicken Alfredo is objectively more interesting to me in this moment, and I'm tired of pretending otherwise. I feel like the one thing I would never forgive someone for is coming between me and a good pasta dish. People have tried to block my bag, they've tried to interrupt my grind, and they could never, to be clear. But you are actually trying to prevent me from chewing my food fully before swallowing it. I'm sorry, but you gotta go. Divorce. I'm convinced that she's actually timing her complaints to begin when I start eating dinner now. Once the fork reaches my mouth, she'll immediately start complaining. So this person told her about it and she said, yeah, okay, fine. And then proceeded to do it again immediately, regardless. So I stood up and went down to the basement to eat, locking the door behind me. I've taken to doing this every day since. She'll bang on the door at times. She's demanded I give her a key. She was literally crying and begging me to eat dinner at the table. She's threatening to take the door off its hinges while I'm at work. Well, based off this behavior, she would know a thing or two about being unhinged. Hey! No, sorry, that's terrible. Am I in the wrong here? Okay, before I grade this, I will say that this is a pet peeve of mine. When people post stories in which there is no way any rational human being would say that they're wrong, and then they're like, am I wrong? I saved a puppy from a burning building, and like one person was really mad about that. Am I wrong? Guys, do you think it was wrong how I stood up for myself? But at the same time, seeing as this person has been dealing with somebody desperately trying to undermine them and make them feel bad constantly, I can still see why they're seeking validation in this way. So allow me to provide it. First, authenticity ranking, I'll give it a B, I guess. Nothing about this seems like it couldn't be true. I mean, it is kind of rage bait-y, but some people are just enraging. So who knows, it could be true. Now, as for whether or not this person is an a-hole, I'm going to say not to your girlfriend, perhaps, but maybe to yourself. If you really think about it. Obviously, I'm not blaming him for her behavior, but it just makes me sad to see people putting up with this kind of behavior. It always makes me wonder what they see the positive as, or the thing that's worth dealing with all of this, because the truth of the matter is it never is worth it, but you can't see that until you're out of it. So it makes me sad. This person's not an a-hole towards themselves, but gosh, don't put up with this. Why are you with someone this miserable? I cannot imagine listening to someone complain every mealtime. Are you really going to do this for the next 20 years or more? Yikes. You locked her out of the basement. That's a good first step. Now do the same with the rest of your house. What this person has to do is lock her out of his heart, basically. Lock her out of your thought processes. Yeah. Oh God, I sound like a manosphere channel. Yeah, just women, stop perceiving them. Women walk past me, I don't even see them at this point. She's out here trying to say things like hi, and I'm like, you are literally locked out of my thought processes. But no, unironically, you don't get to the point where you're comfortable kicking someone out until you get to the point where you can admit that you don't need them. There is no level of validation this person could provide that would justify the way this individual is being treated. And so I guess that's what I would say. This is so toxic. Please end this ASAP. I would have to agree. Anyway, let's talk about weddings. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to be the maid of honor at my sister's wedding because of how she treated me growing up? Preemptively, I'm going to say no. You don't have to go to anyone's wedding, be anything for anybody else. Doesn't matter if they're your sister or anyone, really. My sister, 29, is getting married next year, and she asked me, 25, to be her maid of honor. We've never been close. Growing up, she always put me down and made me feel like I wasn't good enough. Oh, now that we're older, she wants to have a fresh start, but I still carry a lot of hurt from how she treated me. I told her I don't feel comfortable, and she's upset, saying I'm holding a grudge. Am I the a-hole? All right, I'm just gonna say it. I've seen this before. Not this post, but this phenomenon where someone is a terrible person. They do like a bunch of awful things to many people, and then they change and they come to all of these people and they're like, okay, I demand that you forgive me. I'm different now. I'm gonna be real with you. You haven't even really changed as a person so much as you have adapted your mistreatment into a form of guilt tripping. Because now you want to be a terrible person and for no one to ever acknowledge that you were in the past and probably still are. But I guess to look at it somewhat more compassionately, you have to understand that it's not easy to accept the fact that someone may never forgive you for something that you've done. But what people don't realize is that should probably be part of your apology. You shouldn't be sorry over things because you don't want them to ever be mentioned again. You should be sorry because regardless of how that person responds, you still know it was wrong and they're entitled to feel how they do about it. Or at least that's just my opinion. But anyways, grading this for authenticity, I would give it an A. There's not really any crazy story here. And I would say that obviously this person is not the a-hole. They're not holding a grudge. Also, my horrifically unpopular opinion is like, what's wrong with holding a grudge though? What's wrong? Explain it right now. Oh, you're so mad about that? Yes. And what? And what? And what? Now what? I try not to hold grudges. I really do. But it's just like, you should have thought about that before you came between me and that pasta. I forgot to mention that she hasn't really apologized for how she treated me in the past, which is why I'm still hesitant. She didn't even say sorry. Nah, bro. We need a form of divorce, but for siblings. Alabama, work on that. If you're from Alabama, I'm so sorry. Not the a-hole. Just refuse to be the maid of honor. It's not as if she can force you to do it. If she presses, threaten to go out of your way to put her down and embarrass her at the wedding. Nah. See, a lot of people frame their, I guess, response to negativity as, I'm gonna put you in this situation so you understand how I feel. And I understand the desire to do that, but oh my God, there is nothing more satisfying than straight up just ignoring somebody. I used to get my validation from, I guess, really trying to get back at people, sometimes when I was well within my right to. But now, when I realize you could just hit somebody with that, wow, I wasn't thinking about you at all. Just allowing them to take up no space in the brain. Again, locked out of your thought processes. Not the a-hole. Family drama is like that one uncle who always shows up uninvited. It never ends. That's so Wait, am I that uncle? Nah. They invite me. I just don't go outside. I'm that uncle who will Zoom call into the family gathering. Like, hey, y'all. Hey, oh, you're so tall. They're like, we don't have our camera on. I'm like, y'all breaking up, but it's so good to see you. And then it's like, back to pasta. Most of my family didn't come to my brother's wedding, so I decided to stop caring about them. Am I the a-hole? Wait, that's wild though. The power I would have if I had the ability to stop caring about things would be crazy. I would have so much more room in my brain for things like basic math, my own birthday, what day of the week it is. But instead I'm like, remember that obscure thing that happened 5 years ago? Did that really happen? I need to Google that right now. Okay, so this person's younger brother got married and half of the family didn't come. They all gave some BS excuse, but the real reason was my brother married a guy instead of a girl. Oh, okay. Well, I think the first thing I want to say is divorce. I believe in divorce equality. Straight divorce, gay divorce, just get rid of them. Just kidding. I'm sure this person's brother is a lovely person. I decided that if they don't care about my brother, I don't care about them. I'm not gonna go no contact or make some drama about it, but I decided I'll throw the same BS excuses they gave to my brother. Present day. Wait, this wasn't the present day? Wow, we were in the prologue. Okay. I'm a pediatric resident, so my cousins or their wives text me when their children have something. My country has free healthcare. Oh, God, I wish countries were real. But it's more convenient to text me than to go to their doctor. So this person was kind of ignoring some of these messages because they were about medical things that were not remotely deadly, non-urgent, as they say. And so this person's aunt calls and was like, why aren't you helping us? We're your family. And OP was like, funny, I don't remember any of you at my brother's wedding, which was of course the start of a long monologue. My mom, who is an ally, is standing by me, but my dad, who's more old-fashioned, says I need to understand and be tolerant towards people who don't think like me. So should I just forgive? Oh, make no mistake, you do not have to be tolerant towards homophobia, not in the slightest. You think different than me, and you're wrong. So that's really the long and short of it. But I mean, you could even take that context away from the situation, and I don't really think this person would be the a-hole. You don't have to answer people when they text you. They are asking you to do your job for free because family, when they couldn't even be bothered to attend an important family event. And then they're going to try to guilt trip you because family? Nah, that's goofy. And putting the context back in, I wouldn't say skipping a wedding 100% means you are a homophobe. However, the fact that this person's dad seems to have identified a tolerance issue and people who don't think like OP, it sounds like there's an issue there that you have identified. Now, as far as whether or not this is true, I don't know. I give it a B. This doesn't seem fake to me. And as far as whether this person is the a-hole, at most, they just said, hey, you didn't come to my brother's wedding, so stop trying to guilt trip me into instantly texting you back. I'm gonna go ahead and say, obviously, no, they are not the a-hole. Bless you for realizing what your brother has to go through and standing beside him. Not the a-hole, let their homophobia help themselves. Yeah, no, your fam sounds like low-key trash. I'm not gonna lie. Like, even just the act of guilt tripping you would be trash by itself, but throw in the homophobia and really just making a statement by not showing up to your wedding, like, bro, really? Again, I don't view weddings as mandatory events that you must attend, but at the same time, it definitely sounds like there was more going on there. All right, now let's get some violence. Who likes are you violence fans? Am I the a-hole for beating my sister's fiance in a fight, which caused my sister to break up with him? So my sister's fiance, Josh, and I are close friends and have been since childhood. Okay, so what we're gonna do, your sister is going to divorce Josh, and then you are going to marry him. Now, if you're both guys, which I can't tell from this post, you are going to marry him anyway. That last person's family might not show up to your wedding, but you'll just have to grin and bear it. I was happy that my sister was engaged to Josh, as he was a really great guy. Josh and I are also both huge MMA fans, and I have even taken some jiu-jitsu classes when I was a teen. Now, for some reason, my sister always wanted Josh and me to have an MMA fight inside a ring. Is that weird, I wonder? Or is that just me making it weird? Just something about, I don't know, you always wanting to see your brother fight his best friend. Why? Why is this a lifelong dream of yours, I wonder? Share with the class, quickly. Josh was open to it and kept insisting on the fight, and there was a lot of friendly banter between us, but I wasn't too sure about it because Josh just wasn't athletic. Wow, drag him. I mean, me neither. Drag us, honestly. But anyways, this person's sister and Josh kept going on about it, so they fought last week. Josh was going all out and trying to knock me out. The fight only lasted a couple of minutes. I choked him out and won. He was also unconscious for a couple of minutes after, which was sort of scary. But he regained consciousness and everything was fine. Until a few days later, when my sister broke up with him. Josh seemed really hurt by the breakup, and my sister privately confided in me that she just didn't feel safe and protected with Josh after he lost the fight to me. I'm still a bit shocked and feel guilty for causing their breakup. Was I the a-hole? I am almost tempted to give this an F for some reason. The jiu-jitsu classes you took as a teen were so helpful that you rendered your sister's fiance unconscious, thereby erasing any value he apparently had in the eyes of your sister. That is genuinely wild. But taking the situation at face value, obviously you're not the a-hole if you just had a fair fight and then won. I win everything I do all the time, and it's not even something I'm actively attempting. But let's talk about your sister for a second, because truly, what was up with that? So she forced her boyfriend to fight someone she knew for a fact he would not be able to beat, and then dumped him for losing? Dude, your sister sucks. You were used by your sister as a means to break up with him without her feeling bad for doing it. Ooh. That's an interesting interpretation, which I don't necessarily disagree with. Minutes? He was unconscious for more than 60 seconds, and a local gym just lets you two idiots walk in and spar? Huh? Obviously fake story, you're the a-hole for making me read it. Yeah. Nah, it doesn't seem real to me. I'm gonna find a different one. Am I the a-hole for breaking up with my boyfriend because it's not my job to teach him how to be a good partner? All right, we've got the am I bad for rescuing puppies syndrome going on here with the title again. I broke up with my boyfriend of 4 months because he would often speak to me in an annoyed tone, second guess things I would say, never complimented me, and didn't take any active interest in my hobbies. You know, sometimes when I see situations like this, I want to ask people, how is he your boyfriend? Exactly. I really think a lot of relationships, and I'm being honest here, would benefit if one or both parties stop to ask, why is this person a significant other at this point? Are they? Or did I think they were at one point and now I'm just still here? Anyways, I complimented him every time I saw him, spoke to him with care and kindness, took interest in his hobbies. He thinks I should have been more communicative about my issues, but I don't think it is my job to tell my partner to treat me right. If he really cared for me, wouldn't he just naturally compliment me, speak to me kindly, and take interest in my hobbies? I don't know. Am I the a-hole? I would give this one an A. There's literally nothing that sounds fake about this. Again, obviously this person would not be the a-hole. If anything, just be glad that you only wasted 4 months with this guy. And I actually really like this assertion that, like, sometimes you don't have to speak up about your feelings. It is actually okay in some scenarios to just leave them. We're gonna sit down and therapy style dish out how I feel. No, actually, I just really do not mess with the way you were talking to me, and I don't think it has to go any deeper than that. Bye. I wish that could be normalized a bit more. Sure, that might be a little rough for the other person, but again, actions, consequences, that's for them to figure out. Now, as a caveat, I think most times you probably should discuss things, even if it's a little difficult, but that doesn't always lead to change. And so putting yourself in a scenario where you are explaining things to a brick wall, nah, don't set yourself up. Not the a-hole. It's not your job to teach someone how to be a decent partner. You deserve someone who treats you well from the start. Like me. No, just kidding. It doesn't say that. All right. So believe it or not, this is another I don't want to be your bridesmaid. Please, for the love of God, stop begging me to be your bridesmaid post. But the reason is a little different. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to be a bridesmaid for my best friend's wedding because of how expensive it is? I, a 28-year-old woman, have been friends with my best friend, 28-year-old woman, since high school. We've been through everything together, and she recently asked me to be a bridesmaid at her wedding. Of course, I was super excited and said yes. But as the planning has gone on, I'm starting to feel overwhelmed by how expensive everything is. Okay, wait. Why are you having to pay money in this scenario? She's having a huge fancy wedding, so the bridesmaid dress she picked is over $300. The bachelorette trip is out of state and going to cost $800. On top of that, there's the bridal shower, gifts, all these little expenses. I've already spent a good chunk of money and I'm starting to stress about how I'm going to afford the rest. Is that how weddings work? I just realized I do not know. Do the bridesmaids buy their own? I guess they do. But then if that's the case, why are you recommending dresses that are over $300? This is really strange. I recently tried talking to her about how much this is all costing and maybe doing something a bit smaller for the bachelorette party, but she got upset. It's my big day. I'm only getting married once. I want it to be perfect. That's valid, but why is that coming out of my checkbook? You know what I mean? That's what I would like to know. She also said, I'm her best friend. All right. Choose your state. Where are y'all from? Alabama? Let's begin the divorce process. Best friends and all. I'm sorry, but when people try to use whatever position they hold relative to you as a reason for why you should be doing things for them, I can't help but laugh. I'm your brother. We're family. I'm your best friend. True. Now what? I feel terrible because I don't want to disappoint her. No, you feel terrible because she is guilt tripping you and trying to make you feel terrible. But I can't afford to keep spending money like this without putting myself in a tough spot. Am I the a-hole for considering backing out as a bridesmaid because I can't keep up with the costs? I'm gonna go ahead and say this doesn't seem fake. There's no crazy, unbelievable element. And as far as my, I guess, verdict, this person is obviously not an a-hole. I mean, objectively, you can't afford this. There is literally nothing wrong with standing up for yourself and saying, hey, this is not in my price range. I would love to support you in the way I can. This is not one of them. Not the a-hole. Put yourself first. She should understand. Actually, I don't understand why in the USA, the bridesmaid have to take care of the cost of being one. Normally, it's the couple that pays for everything, since what the bridesmaids are doing is a favor. You shouldn't pay for a favor. No, like for real, I need someone to explain this to me. Obviously, I am very beautiful and would elevate anyone's wedding, but no one has asked me to be a bridesmaid per se. So is that how that works? If you know, you have to let me know. Are you supposed to pay for your own dress? What if the bride is like crazy drippy and is like, we're all gonna wear Louis Vuitton, and that's totally out of everyone's price range. Wedding attendees, report, not the a-hole. You'd be crazy to go into debt or put yourself in any other kind of financial difficulty for someone else's wedding. Coming from a different culture, it's ridiculous how expensive it is to be a bridesmaid. Yeah, nah, this ain't it. And your friend, come on. All right, so the last one, another little bonus moment, which I thought was quite interesting. I feel like it raises some questions, which I have asked myself as well. Am I the a-hole for telling my uncle he was one to talk about phone addiction? So this kid's a 15-year-old boy. The uncle's a 54-year-old boy, and he came to visit us the other day. Over dinner, the uncle started talking about how his son got in trouble for having his phone in school. He said it was idiotic and my generation was coddled to the point we couldn't spend more than an hour without some kind of screen. After which I told him that he couldn't even spend the whole dinner without looking at his phone. A few seconds later, he asked to see my screen time, and it was 3 hours and 28 minutes. Fun fact about my screen time, I just disabled that. I don't care. Oh, I was on my phone for the 11. You want a guilt trip? Try. I would be on my phone for 25 hours if I could fit it in a day. Like, I genuinely did not ask. I returned the favor and asked to see his. I kid you not, his screen time was 13 hours and 7 minutes. I told him he was on his phone for more than half the day and to not call phone addiction a Gen Z problem. Oh, and then he left. Oh, he got mad. Muttering something about respecting adults. When he finally left, my parents told me I was in the right, but that I should have just bit my tongue and let him rant. I can't help but feel I'm in the wrong here. I am going to go ahead and give this a C. I could easily see this not being real and just sort of a point that this person wanted to make, but I actually don't even really care if it's real. I still think it raises an interesting dilemma, because when I think about where I see the most complaints about how young people use the internet, I mostly see this on the internet, like in these weird walled in communities where people celebrate how not like everyone else on the internet they are. I feel like this is also a huge Reddit problem where people are like, oh yeah, I don't even use social media. I could never ever be like those people on Instagram, like those e-girls. I blocked them from my thought processes. And it's like, that's crazy, but you're scrolling Reddit while you're at work. Like, you fill any break in your thought process with r/all. So what do you mean by that? Something about Reddit really leads people to believe they are not on social media, and it sends me. I'm sorry. This should not be an unpopular opinion. Reddit is a social media platform. You use Reddit for multiple hours a day. Great. You spend a lot of time on social media. Similarly, older people complaining when they are doing all of their complaining on Facebook. Miss me with that, okay? So I'm making a video about Ice Spice, and you're falling for AI memes on a Facebook group, and the kids are watching Skibbity Toilet. It's all ridiculous, okay? We all lost. The internet is our collective L. Stop trying to act like this is not your L. It's over. We're just all cooked. All right. Don't matter whether you're a 15-year-old boy or a 54-year-old boy like me. Not the a-hole. It was a conversation, and just because he's older doesn't mean he's right. You called his bluff and he balked. Not the a-hole. Tell your parents they are idiots for coddling and enabling your uncle. Never stop speaking up. I mean, maybe don't tell your parents that they're idiots. Is that screen time finna drop to 0? Boy, give me that phone. But anyways, time for the pop quiz recap. Am I the a-hole for taking bets on how long my cousin's wedding will last? Yes, obviously. Am I the a-hole for locking my girlfriend out of the basement so I can eat? No. For not wanting to be the maid of honor at my sister's wedding because she was low-key mid? Nah. For ignoring my family because they ignored my brother? Nope, not the a-hole. For beating my sister's fiance in a fight leading to their breakup? I don't think that happened. For breaking up with my boyfriend because it's not my job to teach him how to treat me right? Nope. For not wanting to be a bridesmaid because I literally could not afford it? Definitely not the a-hole. And for telling my uncle that he was the real phone addict all along? Meh. I don't know if it happened, but nevertheless, it's a fun story. And I hope you had fun. If you have thoughts on any of those stories, go ahead and let me know, because those were just my verdicts, but maybe you have a different take. And I'm excited to hear your take. I mean, this is the part of the video where a layman would ask you to subscribe, like the video, and leave a comment, but I will ask you to enroll, evaluate the video, and submit your feedback. Because I am, of course, running a 100% completely, all the way, not really, okay, maybe slightly unaccredited university. Probably. Just ask anybody in the student body and they'll confirm it for you. We're totally legit. And as for me, whether you'll see me in 24 hours or 24 months is honestly anyone's guess, but until then, thanks for watching. Your homework for today is to name your favorite pasta dish.